lovely.
Oh. I don't have that issue. I've got a double AC excision in both my shoulders.
Okay.
So mobility wise, overhead's not very good, but well, not mobility, stability.
Stability sounds like excuses.
Yeah, there we go. Here, I still do it. Thank you very much, guys. I was going to say, guys, there's 0 people watching at the moment, but that's absolutely fine. We have got Rachel Hives on this evening, and you might know Rachel already because obviously, Rachel, you'll know we've got a big, I'd say a big following. We don't have a big following, but the vast majority of our followers are from the Savannah kind of the Savannah realm. So most of our followers at the moment are probably just people that we know from the chat in this the Savannah kind of podcast realm. So they might be familiar with you. They might not be, but we will treat it like they're not, and we'll go from there. Jake, so, you normally start with your question.
Yeah, so we've kind of got in this habit of asking this one question when we first start.
Okay.
It's, do you have an earliest memory? So is it if you got an early memory that you kind of can remember, I guess, vividly?
Very much so. I remember years and years ago, probably would have been about 1.5, 2 years old, and I was out for dinner with my grandpa, and they wouldn't give me ice cream at the end, so I kicked off like you wouldn't believe, put myself underneath the table, and then they tried to grab me out from under the table, and I smashed my head and had blood all down it. So that's my first earliest memory, but then I got my ice cream, so it was okay. So it just goes to show being stubborn kind of works sometimes.
Yeah.
And where was that? Do you know where that was?
I'm sure it was in the Clansman Hotel. So do you know, obviously the Inverness area, along the side of Loch Ness, there's the big hotel at the side of the loch.
Yeah, I know it.
Sure it was in there, absolutely sure, but I don't know 100%, but I think it was.
Do you know how old you were when that happened?
I think about 1.5, 2.
So that's like a proper early memory.
Yeah, proper early memory. Yeah, it was tiny, but I remember it clear as day.
Like most people, when Jake asks, it's normally like they're like normally telling us a memory from when they were about 10 years old.
Yeah.
No, I'm quite good with like earlier memories, and I can remember people's dogs and stuff as well from when I was younger.
Mm-hmm. So are you quite a visual learner? Have you got quite a visual memory?
Yeah, very much so. Right. So I'm not great at listening to information and remembering it, but if I see something, then it's kind of ingrained in my head. So like numbers and things like that. If I see it, then it's stuck there.
Yeah, that's very much like myself.
Yeah.
I think all 3 of us are there.
Yeah.
I've started homeschooling my kids from September last year.
How's that going?
Really well, thank you. Yeah. One of the challenges was differentiating between their learning styles. So as a coach, obviously you learn how to do that and understand different people tick differently and learn differently. So with that experience, it was a lot easier for me and my wife than other people would have found it. But my son he has to repeat things 1,000 times. He writes notes down. He's, like I said, he's turning 6 next week. So he's not exactly like, Einstein yet. But he's very much like my wife. She's reps. Got to go through, repeat. Whereas my daughter is a very visual learner. So she'll come out with these statements of stuff that she saw on a beach 2 years ago, that what someone was wearing and what color it was and all this kind of stuff. So she's got a very visual memory. However, it does come with its own obstacles, and that you two might be able to back this up. I think with a visual learner, you get a bit complacent with being able to recall things from visual memory. So you don't actually have to go through the process or forcefully go through the process of putting in the reps, going through it, learning it effectively. You rely on that visual memory. So you don't necessarily learn the method. You learn what you can see.
I was terrible at actually, especially for like maths. Like I knew how to do things in my head, but when I was asked, how did you get there? I was like, I don't actually know how I got there.
Just kind of like I play the piano and play musical instruments, and I would be terrible. I would look at the music once, remember it in my head, and as long as I could remember it in my head, I would have a feel for it on the piano. And then I'd just be able to go, and my teachers would be like, Rachel, read the music. I'm like, no, I don't want
No.
to. I know what it sounds like, and I know how to
Yeah.
get them, so I'll figure out my own way. And I think that's probably the same with training and stuff like that. Sometimes I'm a bit like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm like, if I get the feel for something, then I know it's right. But if it doesn't feel right, then it's just a bit.
Yeah. Well, all you have to say to that is Prince never learned how to read music, and he could play 32 instruments, and he wrote all his own. So just use that. Just use that as a guide. But I'm the same. I'll go to a piano. I can play the same like 5 tunes, and it's my party piece, and that's it. I can't learn anything else.
What's your party piece though?
A load of Muse songs. So Sunburn, Plug-in Baby, Hysteria. There's like a load of songs that I learned when I was about 19 that I forever can play now. But
You'll be stuck there in your brain though forever.
Yeah. And Claire de Lune comes out now and again. But yeah. So Rachel, touched a bit on your early life then. So just a touch. Your childhood. So let's say up to senior school. So 0 to 11. How was your childhood? Was it happy? Where did you grow up? Were both parents around?
Yeah. So both my parents, they're still around. They're still together, and they now live over in Canada. I had a really good upbringing, really. We were really fortunate. My mom and dad were always like, look, if you want to do a sport or if you want to do an activity, then go and do it. So of course I was like, I want to do ballet, I want to do tap, I want to do football, I want to do anything under the sun. So we were really, really lucky in that sense. We just did as much as we possibly could, and my poor parents had to drive us about everywhere all over the country for that. We grew up in Pitmedden, which is a tiny little village outside of Aberdeen. So if you've been to Rogue, it's kind of about 20 minutes away from there. It was just a really, really nice childhood, really good friends. We were always out playing in the fields and just causing mischief all the time. Absolutely. I remember getting chased by a farmer once with a shotgun because we were playing on the hay bales. We were like, run. But it's common in Scotland, I think. So.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I was going to tell a story about when we got chased by a shotgun, but it's nothing to do with a farmer, and I don't think it's appropriate for the podcast. But as soon as you said chased by a shotgun, I was like, then a wee like daydream there, thinking about a time a shotgun came out when we were in Budapest. But I'll not delve into that story at the moment.
No, we were like 8-year-olds, and I feel so very different.
You mentioned dancing. So did you? Well, I'm assuming tap, and I'm assuming tap's dancing. So did you dance all the way through your teens? And
yeah, so I was a ballet dancer. I think on Servan's podcast, people picked it up as a ballet dancer. I'm not a ballet dancer. I was a ballet dancer. And so at one point, I was doing about 14 classes a week. So tap, jazz, character modern, hip hop, national, all of that sort of stuff. And then when I was about 13, 14, I think it was, I smashed my kneecap up and ripped the cartilage in my knee on a trampoline. So that was me out completely.
Trampolines are the devil, aren't they?
I know, but they're so much fun. Even now, as a mum, I love jumping on the trampoline with the kids. And like at nighttime, you'll just lie there and look at the stars and just be lay there. And trampolines are amazing, but they hurt a lot.
Yeah, when you get them wrong.
Yeah.
So, childhood, very happy, active, clearly, good memories. Was there any particular values that you felt like you took away from childhood with your parents?
I just think communication was so important. So my dad worked away a lot, and like for months and months at a time. And the fact that he could come home, and sometimes it would be as if nothing had ever happened whatsoever, but we were always so open with one another. So even like if myself and my brother had done anything wrong, we would be straight there being like, look, this has happened, that's happened. And we would always just really, really honest with one another. Sometimes we would get in a lot of trouble for half the stuff that we did. But I think that's one of the things that I've brought forward for everything. It's like you always need to speak everything out. I speak far too much, and my kids are always like, shut up, mom, stop asking questions, stop doing this. But I'm just like, one day they will actually appreciate that. It's just real important to be open and be able to communicate with people.
Completely.
That's very much what it was like in our like my household growing up. Was you could do anything wrong, but as long as you were like honest and like actually like brought it forward. Like it was that's what it was like in our household.
I know there's sometimes like I would try to lie to my mom and she would just look at me in my face like I can't lie to save my life, and she would just look at me and I'd be like, oh sorry mom, and then I go off and tell her the actual truth eventually. Yeah, it's hard to lie to my mom though, she knows everything.
Oh yeah, I had a story like that. I lied to my dad, and it was one of our, it's top priority. You always tell the truth. That was the household rule. Always tell the truth. And I lied to him. I was about 15, where I'd been at night one night, being a young teenage boy, and I walked from my school. It ate me up all day at school, you know. So I walked about 3 miles out of the way to go to my dad's work. He was a panel beater. So I knocked on the oven door. He opened it up in his mask, came out, was like, what do you want? I said, Dad, I lied to you about where I was. And he said, I know. Thanks for telling me. You can go home now. I'll speak to you later. Fucking hell. The walk home from there. But he had a few hours. He had a few hours to mull it over, and when he got back, he said, "I'm not happy with what you did. However, you came and told me the truth. So punishment's diverted a little bit. So I'm trying to use that for my kids a little bit as well. You know, there's no manual for being a parent, but I think values, honesty is right up there. I think with a lot of people's values. As a parent, it's crucial, you know, for the safety and everything as well. So. So before we get to your 19th year, things started to change. Were you into any sports up until 19? Were you in a competitive environment with sport up until then? I know you've mentioned a couple of like activities that you're involved with.
Yeah, not really. So kind of after I did my knee, I dropped so many things and didn't really bother with anything whatsoever. I just kind of thought, what was the point? Yeah, I didn't really do very much, just school, the usual. I left school, I think I was 17, and went and got a job, left my parents' house, and they weren't very impressed whatsoever. Went and just worked and tried to do my own thing, very much went my own way. So, yeah.
What when you say you left school, what did you go? What was your job, and like where did you move into the city, move into Aberdeen, or?
No, I moved into one of my best friend's flats in Inverurie, and I'd got a job over the summer holidays. It was meant to be like a study kind of gap thing in between school, and I ended up going to this company where my dad had worked over the summer. I'm like, oh, this is great. So then I seen they had an admin job. It was like a document controller, so I ended up like designing all their processes for invoicing. Eventually I ended up doing all of like their Salesforce sort of stuff and asset management and tracking all the inventory for everything going on and offshore. But I ended up getting a job back at that company, didn't tell my dad about it. And it wasn't until about a week after my dad walked down the corridor and he was kind of like, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, I've got a job. Just to let you know, I'm here. Hi. My parents, they weren't overly happy at the fact that I'd moved out. So they went off and got a golden retriever. And I'd always wanted a dog growing up. And my mum, she would never let us have a pet. It was raging. I remember we got fish from like a shows one time, and she was fuming, like absolutely fuming that we brought these fish home. So like when I'd moved out of the house, they'd gone off, got this golden retriever puppy, and I was back in a shop. That was me. I was like, I'm home. I'm fine. I'm here with the dog. But yeah, I ended up going off, worked in the oil company, and did quite well there. So it was good. I really enjoyed it.
Right. And up until you were 19, so you got your. We'll touch on what happened when you were 19. So obviously from what I gather, you got diagnosed with FND, so functional neurological disorder. Leading up to that diagnosis, were there any symptoms, looking back now in hindsight, that kind of you can see were a prelude to the diagnosis, or was it like an event that led to you being diagnosed?
So I don't really think there was much things that had happened beforehand that I've noticed. Yeah, I was in a bit of a weird relationship with somebody back then. I'm very glad that we're not there anymore. And I'd woken up one morning and I was completely paralyzed. Like my whole face had gone, all down my left-hand side was gone. and my leg as well. So it was like I'd had a stroke, couldn't really do anything. That lasted it took about 1.5 years to fully recover from. So to be able to be fully moving, fully walking, able to like run and move like a generic normal human being. But on the lead up to that, there wasn't very much signs or anything whatsoever. It was just one of these things that kind of woke up to it.
See, for anyone that's not aware what like FND is, can you kind of give us like a brief kind of like just synopsis of like what functional neurological disorder is?
Yeah, it's such a hard one to say. So FND for short, it's a lot easier.
You're saying it all day as well.
Have you been practicing?
Not really.
So you'll be walking functional neurological. So functional neurological disorder is basically an issue with the communication from your brain to the rest of your body. So your brain is still working as normal, it's still trying to send the signals as normal, but they're just not going to where they're actually meant to be or not meant to be received. So like to walk, to put one foot in front of the other, or for like me speaking just now, that's totally what is normal to most people, but my brain just stops it and completely shuts down the pathways. So for me, it causes paralysis. My legs, quite often both of them, or just one of them, mostly my left leg, will get paralyzed quite a lot. And my hands go. So like the other day I was studying and I was so mad and was busy with my books and working out calculations for the management accounting part of my degree. And I was like, tap, 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 put it in, put the calculator into my hand, and my hand completely froze. And it was like, I don't know, where's the camera? There.
Oh no.
Like this, and it was like a claw hand with this calculator stuck in it for about 45 minutes. It completely seized over. So it does loads of really weird things. It affects my speech, my balance, my feet. My left one at the moment's turned in and it's not flexing properly. I can't touch, if I close my eyes, I can't touch my nose. It just affects everything. Like your brain, it's amazing what your brain can actually do. It controls everything. And I know everybody should know that. But when things stop working, you're like, oh my gosh, just actually work. And you can see yourself thinking, just hurry up, just like start walking, or for my arm, just unlock, just be able to do it. And it's just a complete block, nothing happens. So it's very frustrating, but it'd be really easy to live in like a victim mode and be like, oh, I feel so sorry for myself. I can't walk. I can't do this.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm not dying. It's just my body doesn't work properly, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Not frustrating.
Very much so.
So, brain, hand. Is there? So obviously, you want to move your hand. Does the brain processes, but then it doesn't send the signal, or does the signal get lost along the way somewhere?
I'm not 100% sure what actually happens with it. I just know it doesn't get received in the correct way. Right. So I'll be like, right. So for instance, if my legs are both paralyzed, I'd be like, just stand up. And they just won't work. They just, you look at them and you're like, come on, just move. And they just don't do anything. Right. So just things like move your finger. Sometimes you can't even do that.
Yeah, you've had like prolonged periods when you've had to use your wheelchair. How do you? This might sound like a silly question, but how do you actually know when it's like, oh, I can actually get up out of my chair now? Is that like, are you trying consistently throughout the day? Are you like, how do you know? And then it's all of a sudden, it's obviously like something must go for then you to be like, oh, now I can actually go back and train and do X, Y, and Z.
So it completely depends. So about almost 4 years ago now, in April, it'll have been 4 years since I lost both of my legs. I was completely paralyzed from the waist down, and that lasted for about 6 months to get fully better. So for them, when they started getting better, I could start to feel different parts of my legs, because before they were completely numb. And that took like months and months and months of rehabilitation. And quite a lot of it was done by myself. I would take myself onto like a chair or onto something that has spinning wheels, and I'd strap my feet in and just get them spinning and get them moving with the hope that it was going to spark up the nervous system. So that one, it was like a prolonged period. It took ages and ages and ages to actually be able to get them up and walking. And then when I was actually able to stand up, I didn't have the muscle memory or the strength because I'd been sat down for so long, so I couldn't physically stand up. Whereas now I've been doing CrossFit for about 3 years. So sometimes, I think the most recent one, it lasted for a couple of weeks. It was both my legs, and then my left leg got stuck, twisted in on itself. So when that got better, because I hadn't been sat in a wheelchair for so long, I was actually okay to stand up. But when it is getting better, it's mostly myself doing so much hard work and so much physio and just constantly moving and constantly trying to spark something up, because I hate it. Like there's no way to describe it. I absolutely hate it. You'll sit there and sometimes it'll last for an hour or 2 hours, and that's completely fine because I'm like, we'll get up, we'll get on with it. And it starts lasting days, and then you're like, okay, this is a bit annoying now. And then normally by the time it gets to about day 11 or day 12, that's just, I lose it. I get in such a dark place, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous, because in the back of my head, it's going to stick around for like 6 months or longer. And having kids, and like I work, I've got university, I've got so much going on as well. When this stuff happens, it's really, really difficult to try and continue to live a normal life. And yeah, really, really difficult to try and stay positive. So
yeah, well, there's no rhyme or reason, no planning. You can't gauge as it's going how long it's going to last for. It's just,
so no, you can't gauge how long it's going to last for. Now I've had it, I'm almost 35 now. So I can now recognize if I get extremely, extremely tired, or if I have like viruses, or if I get like a sickness bug or like extreme stress, things like that, I'll start having drop attacks, and my hands will start dropping things, or my full body will just start collapsing a couple of days in advance. And then I'm like, oh, something's going to happen here. You can kind of figure it out. And also Whoop. There was the other day, I can't remember how long it was, a couple of weeks ago, I think. And I was looking at my Whoop, and my recovery was at 2%. I'm like, that's ridiculous, because I felt completely fine. I was like, I'm not ill. There's nothing going on. I've slept well. I eat really well. But that night, I ended up going into massive seizures and spasms. And it was as if it already knew in advance. And so I've been tracking my Whoop quite closely now. And like, I keep a note of all the things that happens to me anyway. And I'm like, whoa, if you look at all this data, Whoop's already known that these things are going to happen. So it's, I don't know, that's been quite crucial, actually, looking at that and recognizing it and being able to kind of know in myself when I need to take a step back, when I know it's not safe to drive, things like that. So
yeah, that's really interesting. So season 1 of COVID, I had a Whoop.
About to say, so did I.
Yeah,
and they brought that out, and it was detecting whether you were coming down with it or not, wasn't it?
really?
Yeah. So December 2020. It's December 20th. I did a marathon ski and row at the gym for a charity thing, and that was on the Friday. The Saturday started feeling a little bit ropey, but I'd just done a silly thing in the gym with my training buddy, and my Whoop was saying, red. Come on, boy, you need to recover. Sunday, same again, red. And I thought, something's not right here. And it was when we had to go to the test centres, pull up in your car and get your window down and get tested. Got tested, and that Monday it was red again. Tuesday the test came back and it was positive for COVID. And the test had told me 3 days before that I was wrecked. And I've heard so many stories about Whoop for that kind of thing, like preempting, like whether it's immunity. Yeah. One thing I was going to ask then, you mentioned about like getting a virus or a cold or run down beforehand, and then you get these symptoms appearing. Is there any suggestion then it's like an immunity linked to your immune system at all?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Right.
No, I'm not aware.
Okay.
Because there's load, like, well, from what I've read, and then I've spoke about it, obviously my son's autistic, so obviously that's a neurological, thing as well. I've done loads of reading on that, not so much on FND, but like from what I had, like stress, migraines, even like down to like, traumatic events and past experiences they have been trying to, link it to, but the symptoms are that, unpredictable. There's not anything that doctors have kind of honed in on yet, is there?
No, it's quite a frustrating one, because I know, like, when you do have these things, so like obviously the first time it happened, I looked like I had a stroke. Everybody thought I had a stroke, so they were testing for everything, and they bang you straight into a hospital. And that's like, now obviously I'm older, I've dealt with this for years and years. That's hands down the worst thing you could ever do for somebody. Well, somebody who's got FND, because if there's not anything structural going on within their brain, don't put them in a hospital bed. if you're in a hospital bed, you're just lay there and you just waste away and all your muscle goes, and then it makes recovery so much more difficult.
Yeah.
So if, like, for my sake, like if my legs do go, I never phone the doctors. I don't really tell any of the medical staff anything. I keep a record of it. But then I take myself down to my garage. My son's quite good at getting my wheelchair for me, and he'll take me to my garage, and then I'll just go put myself onto my bike, strap my feet in, and be like, right, let's wake these up and let's just work at it. Because if you're put straight into a hospital, you aren't given the opportunity to move. You're not given the opportunity to try and rehabilitate yourself. You can't use different tools and different things to distract yourself from what's going on. And I think mentally that's a lot more of a battle than what it is if you're left to your own devices. But at the same time, if you're just newly diagnosed and you don't know this, then it's terrifying. I've just realised just now, the shark behind me looks like it's biting my head every time what's going on there?
I liked it. I thought that was intentional.
No,
Obviously,
it's just
obviously
there.
you were diagnosed at 19, so you had what, a good 9 years before you had your first child, I believe.
Oh gosh, how long was I when I had Hamish? He's just
obviously I watched you on Savannah and then obviously like followed your page, but you've got a Santa Ana daughter, don't you?
Yeah. Hamish,
who's the oldest?
Hamish.
So he's 8, you said, yeah. How was that? Obviously, like having children, like after, you know, like 10 years dealing with it yourself, and then all of a sudden you've got this new challenge of like when you didn't have kids, all you have to worry about is yourself, but then all of a sudden you could have that like added worry of, oh, I've got a baby here now, and I've got this and that, and then all of a sudden it's that unpredictability of, you know, my legs could go and I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah, so having the kids, in some ways it's fantastic. Well, it is fantastic because I love them to pieces, but it's also at the same time I'm like, I don't want them seeing me in like a really bad way. I don't want them to see me in a bad state. So I always try to turn it into such a positive thing. I'll be like, oh, look, we're in a wheelchair. It's great fun, blah, 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 blah. But when they were little, it was really worrying. Pregnancies, luckily, they were completely fine. Isla, she was a nightmare, but I think that's just her set in her way in life. She's very, very full on. And Hamish, she was just really chilled out. But yeah, they were amazing. But Isla, when I'd had her, I was walking people's dogs for them just during COVID. And I kept having drop attacks in the forest, ended up breaking my shoulders. Loads of things were going on as well. So I had to stop the dog walking, which was a bit rubbish because I love dogs. But for the kids' side of things, they're so used to it now. And they're so used to seeing me in different kind of situations. I always try to spin it and make it a positive thing. Yeah, because I'm like, look, guys, like today I might not be able to walk, but I can still lift you. I can still do this. I can still probably lift a hell of a lot more. And then I always take them, if they can, be training with me in the garage, because I'm like, look, it's quite cool for them to see their mum going from being an absolute wreck of a human, not really being able to do much, pretty yeah, sometimes like if both my legs go, my arm goes, it's really difficult because then you've only got one arm working and you're having to like drag yourself across the floor. So that's so, for me, it's heartbreaking because I don't want my kids to see me like that or to think anything of it, but they don't think anything of it. They're like, oh, it's okay, Mom, we'll help you with this. They help grab stuff for me. And then eventually they know that I get better. So now they're older, it's a lot easier to deal with. But I know when they were young, that was really, really horrible.
Yeah, I can imagine it's quite scary for them, but now they probably see the actual mental resilience and like how strong you are, like you know, to keep going again.
And also it's all they've known.
Yeah,
exactly.
So they haven't got any other perspective. They just know his mum, she's double R'd. Every now and again she has an issue, but she conquers it and she wants us to be involved.
Yeah.
So their threshold for resilience is like through the roof.
Yeah.
So you're gonna end up with these kids that are just like Johnny Concrete. Just
I've had them skiing a couple of, when was it, in January at New Year, and they're just like, right, Mom, it's fine. We're just gonna go flying down this hill because we're strong. We're like you. I'm like, okay, guys.
Yeah.
They're cool.
I love that. You wouldn't want it any other way, would you?
No, definitely not.
So we mentioned you mentioned CrossFit a little while ago. So talk us through that. So what year did you find CrossFit?
3 years ago now. So this will be my third open. So yeah, just over 3 years ago, about November.
Okay.
Yeah, a while back. So not too far.
So, and what was your introduction to CrossFit? Was it online? Was it in person? Was it a friend?
It was kind of a friend. So when I'd lost both of my legs, what happened? I'd gone to a gym in Inverness, and they were fine. They were notoriously known as a gym for people who don't like gyms. So I'd gone into this place, kind of got it set up. It was a bit of a nightmare with the whole setup. Sorry, I'm just seeing my laptop just a way to switch off. 2 seconds, I'm going to plug it back in.
That's all right. Yes, Heidi.
Is it?
The term, Heidi, double R is
Double R.
That is a compliment of the highest form.
Oh, we should get Rachel and say get to the chopper tonight as well.
Get what?
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
There you go.
Very Scottish though.
Nailed it.
No, like Arnie, you have to do your best Arnie impression. But it's not for our network. It's a Savan network thing. It's not. It's not ours.
I'll practice.
Yeah, keep practicing.
Cool. Where was I? So I'd gone to that gym. It was a bit of a mare and everything getting set up, and I'd gotten okay. So when I first gone to that gym, I wasn't able to like walk up a flight of stairs. I was literally not long out of the wheelchair. Just got myself stable for actually being okay to walk. And as soon as I walked in, they're like, right, okay, up the stairs and off we go sign this paperwork. And I was like, oh crap, I can't. I didn't say to them I can't walk upstairs, but I was like, I haven't walked up a whole flight of stairs since like months and months and months. So I ended up like push pressing myself up and walking up these stairs to sign the paperwork. But anyway, I got there for about a year-ish, and I got a lot fitter and a lot stronger, which was great. Things were obviously still happening, but like I was heaps fitter. And one of my friends was like, oh, you should try CrossFit. I was like, nah, I could never do that, because I'd seen all this stuff online, and you see like people flying off the bars and lifting crazy weights, and I'm like, nah, I'm just like this little tiny like dancer sort of thing. I'm not strong enough for that. And then I can't remember what it was. I seen something on Instagram, and I was like, oh, I'll just give them a shout and see what like. And then Donnie was like, oh, just come in for a trial. So I went for the trial, did my workout, and absolutely died a death. And I was like, that was so cool. Like so cool. I just loved the feeling of being, flat out on the floor, feeling like what has just happened to me. The world's just completely spun upside down. It was great. So I was like, right, when could I sign up for the foundations? So I got in for the foundations the next day. And I think I tried to do them as closely together as I possibly could. And as soon as I was finished foundations, I was straight in. I was like, right, I'll just go to the class straight after this. And that was me kind of hooked. I loved it. And it's helped with everything. Like mindset wise, it's been incredible. Right. For being able to live with the kids. It's been like completely game changing. Simple things like when I'm in the wheelchair, being able to get them in and out of the shower, or being able to lift things off of the shelf, or just pick my kids up to give them a cuddle. It's absolutely massive. And I'm so much stronger now, which is really cool. I love it.
Good.
That's it. I was going to ask, what was like the differences you found from like what you were doing prior to then going into the CrossFit gym and being like, oh, like this is where I need to be. So like, obviously you said you got a lot stronger in the year prior, but what was it that really kind of clicked that you thought like, oh, this is for me?
I think it was just the way I felt after a workout. That was just like so addictive. It's like you completely sold your soul. You don't really care about anything else that's going on within the room. You're just there in the moment doing what you can. And that was just such an incredible feeling. Whereas the gym that I was at previously, a lot of it, they say they weren't about aesthetics, but it was very much about aesthetics, and they'd be measuring your body fat and this and that and all the rest of it. And I was so skinny, like so skinny. It was disgusting. So I'm really glad to kind of be away from that environment and focusing on actually being a lot stronger and being able to be healthy, for life, basically. Because I know now I'm always going to be eating well. Everything's changed. Like I eat so much better. My food is pretty much on point most of the time. I work with a lovely lady called Steph who's doing all my nutrition for me. She's incredible. Like health-wise, it's so much better. My relapses, so if I do have episodes that aren't lasting for anywhere near as long, I'm always significantly affected by something. But paralysis-wise, which is the main thing that everybody sees, is that's not lasting quite as long, which is good. And I purely put that down to CrossFit.
Wow, what a testimonial. So my question to you there, so I'm just thinking logistically. So we've got a good friend called Athena who runs a seminar and she's got an affiliate for large-bodied athletes. So people that are usually morbidly obese, and her obstacle is access and use in the gym. And we had a conversation earlier on today, very early this morning, and even after having talked to her about this a multitude of times and having researched it, there's still gaps in my knowledge that just go completely over my head. I haven't even thought about. My question to you, I guess, is in a typical gym. So you walk in a gym now. Do you have to adapt the stimulus and the training to account for the fact that you might have an episode during the gym? So would you typically train a heavy 1 RM back squat? Does that ever come up in your training, or are there protocols you put in place to combat the unlikely event you might have an episode, like safety bars or?
Kind of. Normally, if I'm doing like a really, really heavy lift, I'll have somebody there. So Donnie, my coach, he'll always be there. So especially like a back squat, front squat, things like that, he'll absolutely always be there. If I do have an episode mid-training, touch wood, it hasn't happened yet. It's happened directly after training, and we've had to deal with that. So like 1 rep maxes and stuff, I'm usually okay with. We have my coaches who are absolutely fantastic, and they're pretty much by my side most of the time. And there has been one time I just got back from the games, and I think we were meant to chill out and take it really, really nicely. And then my coach was like, right, Rachel, you need to end yourself on the echo bike at the end of this.
I know where this is going.
So I was like, sweet, got through the workout. It wasn't my cup of tea whatsoever, but I love the echo bike. Absolutely love it. And yeah, did the workout, got to the end of it, and can't remember how much calories it was. And I completely sold my soul on that bike. Fell off the bike, as everybody does, because CrossFitters were very dramatic and we're like, oh, fall to the floor. Yeah. So I fell to the floor, tried to catch my breath back, and I was like, oh, cool. Went to go stand up. I'm like, oh, I can't swear probably. So I was like, oh, no, my legs aren't working. And literally sat on the floor. I was like, okay, we'll wait 5 minutes. And I sat there and my legs still weren't moving. I'm like, oh no, this isn't good whatsoever. So I tripped something in my neurological system to stop my legs working. And I was just like, this can't be happening, because people were coming in for open gym. So I sat through the whole of open gym, pretty much on the floor, managed to, like, I'm so glad I'm a lot stronger than I was, because I managed to push myself up with my arms, got help to like pull myself onto the echo bike and kind of put my feet onto the pedals of it, and then just started slowly move my feet round in the hope that it was going to restart my nervous system. Didn't really work very well, so I ended up waiting for about 2 hours, kind of got myself to an okay state where I could just about walk, but my left leg, I can't, where's my camera? There. So my left leg was turned in on itself like that, completely stuck, and it pretty much just had to drag myself back to my car. So I've got adaptions on my car, thank goodness for that, so at least I know it's safe to drive. So I just, after about 2 hours of waiting for both my legs to wake up, I got one of them awake, had to get myself to the car, get myself home, and then it was just rehab, and just try to get everything working again.
You don't 2 hours on the floor, Heidi. Sorry, Heidi's a deaf listener that she tries to listen, but she's partially deaf, I think. So 2 hours on the floor after an echo bike workout. And let me get this right, you don't take your wheelchair in the car with you typically, do you? Almost like an asthmatic that doesn't bring their inhaler to the gym.
Yeah, I probably should in hindsight. Normally I've got crutches or my walking sticks as well. I've always got them there because my balance goes off quite a lot. But I try not to use them, because I think if you start using, like I know with the crutches, if you start using mobility aids, then you're going to rely on them more. So my way is just put yourself in at the deep end and just work with it.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I haven't seen that at the bottom there. But wheelchair wise, no, I normally leave that at home. And yeah, it's, at the moment, if my legs stop working, just now it's at the other end of my house. So there's been times that I've just had to drag myself across the floor and hold onto door frames and pull myself. But yeah, we get there.
I've got I work with a lady called Claire who a couple of years ago, she had a very unfortunate accident. She was at a Tough Mudder event, and she fell off one of the obstacles and broke her back right at the lumbar, and she's paralyzed now in both legs. very similar to yourself, just iron will, just I am moving forward. I am taking this by the horns. I am dealing with it day by day. She's got 3 kids. She told me a story of the hospital that she was in when it first happened. There was a ward that she was sat in. There was 5 other ladies in her ward, and they were kind of given a 2-year period where if they could demonstrate some kind of feeling back or progress physiologically, then it kind of opens up a whole new window to sort of sponsorship and to further treatment and looking down that road. Claire has recently started to get feeling in her quads and her glutes again.
Wow.
Through sheer hard work. And she's actually gone into para bench. So she still obviously can't use her legs, but she's gone into para bench as a sport. She does para racing as well, so the wheelchair racing as well.
Yeah.
This is all within 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
How important do you think that CrossFit has been to the last 3 years? I know you said about that the actual episodes have changed, but do you think it's changed the way that you see and you draw inspiration from things? Has it changed the way that you are as a person, do you think?
100%. I think it would be so easy to fall into like a victim mentality with so many different things that happen, but you find yourself within the middle of a workout and it'll be incredibly, incredibly difficult. Your body will be screaming at you and your mind's just thinking, give up. And that's kind of, I know at the start you would probably always put the dumbbell down or be like, no, I can't do it anymore. Whereas now I just keep telling myself, I'm like, you've been through so much worse than this.
Yeah.
So much worse than this. You've only got however long to go. So just do it. And it just makes you've always got that little voice in the back of your head. And I think through doing all of these workouts and putting yourself through kind of torture in quite a lot of these workouts, it makes you such a stronger person mentally because you can deal with hard things. If you can get yourself to a next rep when your body's absolutely screaming out in agony, you can easily go off and do something else, like pick up your shopping when you get home. And even though you might find it to be really, really difficult to go home and pick up your shopping, then it's just as difficult as it would have been to do that next rep. So why not just do it? And I think that's my kind of mentality towards everything now. Things are going to be difficult, but you just need to get on with it. It's just one more rep. For everything, it's just one more rep.
See, going back to when you were first diagnosed at 19, if you could go back now and do anything like different, because obviously you've come like I forgot. Did you say you're 35?
I'm so old now. I'm almost 35. Yeah.
There we go. So like
16
years like living like with FND, like what would you go back and like tell yourself now? Like
now,
if you could go back and like you've seen like, I don't know if you're on like, well, I know you're on Instagram, but you see all these like, I've just met my like past self for a coffee type, like trends, reels. What would you go back and tell the 19-year-old Rachel about like living with FND, like to get her to where she is now?
I think if I was to go back, I would tell myself life isn't actually that hard. It's what you make of it. Because if you think it's going to be terrible, it's going to be terrible. But if you think, oh, if I try and do this,
energy, isn't it?
It will get better, 100%. So when I was 19, we had obviously NHS physios and there was a big support of people and all the rest of it, which were fine, but they were doing everything very much so by the book. And I kind of like to go off and do my own things. So I would take myself, my mom would take me to the swimming pool and I just throw myself into the swimming pool and just drag myself up and down the side just to try and have that feeling of weightlessness. So if there was no weight going through my legs, then hopefully something would happen. And I think even when I was 19, I always had in the back of my head, I need to do something. I need to do something more than what's already been done. But if I knew back then, like what I know now, it's not actually that bad. It's not going to last forever. You've just got to work extremely, extremely hard and try and be positive, because as soon as you stop being positive, or as soon as you start thinking, oh, this is it, it's over, you're never going to get anywhere. And it's the same with so much in life. So if you look at like your kids, if you're having a bad day with your kids and you look at them and be like, oh, this is awful, this is going to be a nightmare, they're never going to stop bickering or arguing with one another, then they probably won't. Like I've had a lot of arguing over skateboards today and roller and all of that stuff. So I'm just like, guys, do you know what? It's not the end of the world. You go sort it out yourselves and you'll be fine in 5 minutes. And sure enough, they'll come back in 5 minutes. Whereas if you think, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare, and you start acting really, really stressed, they're going to get really stressed too. So I just think the way you hold yourself and the way you deal with things, so important.
I think that kids don't do what you tell, like they don't do what you tell them to do. They do what they see you doing.
Yeah.
You know, like they learn from what you do, not from just what you say.
Yeah. Like Hamish this morning, Isla, she was up to here sky high, just doing his head in. That's the only way I can describe her this morning. And Hamish just walked out the room and he's like, 2 minutes, guys, I need to take a breath. And I'm like, oh gosh, you're so a miniature version of me.
Yeah, where have you learned that from?
I know. I'm just gonna count to 5.
Yeah, it's they're sharks, kids. Yeah. They swim around looking for morsels to eat, and every now and again they'll take a bite out of you.
Yeah.
It's funny because I heard something you said earlier a minute ago about, you know, if you're having a bad day or getting stressed out with the kids, or they've done your head in and you need to go out, and a very wise person said, and I can't for the life of me remember who it was, gave me this thing of, if ever you're in a bad situation, imagine yourself at 90 years old, it's your last day on earth, and you've been given the chance to go back in time into your previous self, into your body, and experience this last moment with your kids right now, this age, and boom, all gone. Any of the stress you're feeling, any of the anger, any of that, it just goes. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. It's just temporary stress that you're telling yourself is important at the time. None of it matters. It'll blow over. And that's a little tool that if I'm really mad with the kids or I'm feeling it, I'll tell you the best tool that we found recently is jiu-jitsu. We've put them both
chokes some kids out.
Yeah, I just wrestle them. We don't go to a club. I just put them in a choke.
You just start wrestling your
yeah. No, we're fortunate enough where we are. There's quite a few jiu-jitsu clubs within a 10-minute drive. So we've got them into 1-on-1 with a coach or 2-on-1 with a coach, and they do that a couple of times a week. And conflict resolution, emotional management, it's worked insanely well. And for those two, it's quite a bonding experience, learning about how the other one feels, and management, allowing. But the other thing is, there's a lot of with siblings that I see around. It's, oh, let her win, or let him win, or let him have that, or let him do this one. It's the one at Miles, the jiu-jitsu coach last week, said, rather than say let her win, it's like let her learn. So teach him or let him learn. Teach him how he can do this next time, how he can get better. Not let him win. Let him learn. My God, boom, light bulb. I was like, wow, I'm going to use that.
I will be taking that to my kids now as well.
Yeah.
Her learn from you.
Yeah. Well, Philip, hang on. Sorry. I just got this up.
I was just about to pull that up.
This guy wanders into the chat after weeks of being in the wilderness, accusing me of being pale. Now, listen here, Philip. We live in a glorious part of the world. I'm in the Isle of Man, by the way. Rachel. Glorious here. Yes, we sometimes lack a bit of sunshine, but we're all beautiful for it. We have red hair, and mine's grey now. But anyway, I just had to bring that up because Philip's been missing.
You sure don't know who Philip Kelly is?
Not a clue. Sorry.
No, he's not
exactly Philip. Exactly, Philip.
Yeah, exactly. Good. So right now, so step aside from CrossFit for a second. Is there anyone that inspires you? Is there anyone in or out of CrossFit, anyone in the world that you draw inspiration from?
Yeah, my auntie, which is quite a sad one. My auntie, she's one of the most incredible people in the whole entire world. A few years ago, so before both of my legs went, just after I had my daughter as well. So me and my auntie have always been so close since we were younger. I used to come up to her house in summer holidays. She's part of the reason I live where I do now. when I had both of my kids, I would literally just take them and go to her house and sit. We wouldn't even have to say anything. We would just sit, and it would just, you know, that way when your soul's just so full. She's amazing. But she fell at Lupulou, which is a festival up in Ullapool.
I know it is.
Yeah, so when she fell, she got a cut in her face, and she got taken down to the local hospital here, and they'd kind of cleaned out the cut in her face. She'd got taken home, and then I got a phone call from her, well, from my mom actually, and she wasn't very well whatsoever. Yeah, and she just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I'd gone and picked her up, taken her to her house, and she just wasn't well. So I'd made her, I thought she was really hungover, so I made her a big thing of chicken and gave her sandwiches and all the rest of it and packed her in. I was like, make sure you phone me, because she was being sick. She was falling over. She just really wasn't right whatsoever. And then the next morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, she'd refused to get an ambulance. She got a taxi back to the hospital, went through the hospital doors, and she collapsed and got taken straight into surgery. And it turns out she had necrotizing fasciitis. So it's a flesh-eating bacteria, and it had eaten away all at her face and her neck. And she'd been, like, she was so ill. It was horrendous. She'd been in intensive care for months. She's still going through multiple surgeries, but it hasn't changed her. Like now, obviously, it's been years since that happened. She's had lots of other things happen to her as well, health-wise. But she still goes to festivals. She's still out and about shopping. Just now is her 60th birthday. She's currently, her and her partner have just gone off to New York. She's never been to America before. So she's going to New York for a few days to see some shows. She's going to see my aunties in Florida. She's going to travel around America. And she's just living her absolute best life. And her life has completely been turned upside down. She looks completely different. She's lost her fingers. Her face is completely different to what it was before. And that could have affected her. Well, it has obviously affected her so badly, but she's not letting it stop her. And I think if she can go through something like that and have been as ill, and she, honestly, it was horrendous having to see her like that. She was so poorly in intensive care, but it hasn't changed her life whatsoever. She's never given up. She still goes off and lives her life. And I just think everybody should be like her. She's amazing. She's my biggest inspiration. I love her to pieces.
Oh, amazing. So she's clearly double-R'd as well. She deserves that title as well.
Yeah.
That you can use that term there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what a woman, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, good on her. So community. So let's talk about community within CrossFit. We'll get to your sport in a bit. The community, your gym at the moment. So what's the name of the gym that you go to now?
CrossFit 57 North.
57 North, cool.
Yeah.
And was that your first box that you went to? So for 3 years now?
Yeah.
Great.
Probably my only box ever.
One
and only. I love it. It's amazing. Yeah.
Amazing.
Favorite place.
So,
I would be there happily. But I would
and the community as a whole, has it changed in the last few years for you? Do you feel like you've become more part of the community, or is it since day one you felt part of it?
I think since you walk in the doors, I think probably the same with quite a lot of CrossFit boxes. As soon as you walk in the door, I was a bit like a rabbit in the headlights, like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? It's terrifying. But everybody just takes you under their wing, and they were just so nice. All of the coaches were absolutely incredible. They drill down absolutely every single movement, make sure you're comfortable. Like Donnie, for instance, listens to me constantly, gets messages from me all the time. But like, this is happening, that's happening, that's happening. But they never see it as an issue. They take you as you are for that day. They treat every single person the same. There's no cliquiness. There's no nasty sort of people. It's just such a good environment, and everybody's just there to cheer one another on, and everybody's there to do their workout. Everybody does their best as they can for that day, which is something so special. You can have people there with all different abilities, and everybody's still in that same horrible state at the end on the floor. And it's just I think it's such an amazing place to be part of, and I feel very fortunate.
No, it's one of those ones where the more and more affiliates you go to, the more gyms you hear about, you don't necessarily have to visit. It's the same story, isn't it? The gyms that survive anyway, the gyms that have been around a little while, and the gyms that have got a thriving community, they all have these common themes, and the one that counts, and the one that actually keeps the doors open and the people coming is community.
100%. Yeah.
That's good to hear.
57 North is like I think that's a 12-year affiliate. I'm pretty sure. Well, we can check with Donnie after, because I did speak to Donnie on Friday, so he is going to come on.
Is he coming on?
He will come on, yeah.
Good.
Aye. Yeah. And going back to the community, Jake, this is the box I was telling you on Friday night. They've actually got the second highest open participants in Scotland, like below CrossFit Glasgow. But when you look at CrossFit Glasgow, I think they've got like 500 members.
Yeah, they're huge compared to us.
57 North has got less than 200.
Yeah.
So percentage wise, they've got a much higher percentage of like members to open participants.
Is this?
Yeah, this is the one.
It's our lovely box. It's just such a good, such an incredible place. And no matter what's going on in anybody's life, everybody always rallies around everybody. And yeah, it's just really, really good place.
And I think it's the smallest box.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Possibly, I think it is the smallest box in Scotland, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jon, is this the one you were at the other day?
This is the one I did the open workout at. There's Rachel
there. There she is. I'll mute it. Look at that powerhouse. Hey, they're super proud.
Cool people.
There we go. So that leads us on to your beautifully.
There's Donnie there.
Is Donnie in the door?
I've met.
Donnie
met him.
Donnie's a fucking unit. He's a small guy, but he was a power lifter, wasn't he? Or he's done power.
Yes.
But he's
so strong, and he's just such an incredible coach as well. Like, yeah.
Is he the original? Is he the OG guy from the gym?
No, he bought it. He bought it over, but he's been there for a long time. He was a member for a long time before he purchased it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Do you know, I recognize him from, it might be competitions from the last decade or so, but he's obviously quite a unique looking fella.
Well, he was between there and CrossFit Aberdeen, I believe. So he was, and I think Rob
Lawson.
Rob Lawson, his company that does the programming.
Yeah, so Rob does our programming. PTP Plus is what we use. So our daily WODs are all done. We're like a week behind CrossFit Aberdeen that we do, and then my additional programming is all PTP Plus as well. So it runs in conjunction with our WODs, which is amazing.
Good, yeah. No, so yeah, I recognise him from. It's got to be competitions. I've never been to the gym, so it would have been from there.
Well, if you're ever up in the Highlands, popping past, it's a good place.
Do you know, I'm hoping, so we're 1,000,000% coming for Rogue. We were all supposed to go to Rogue last year, just gone, but things didn't turn out. But I'm making a big plan of it. It's my 10th wedding anniversary around then as well. So Katie and I want to make a trip of it and do a Scottish tour and be there for the week. So we'll come and visit and see Jon. We've got a tent for Rogue. We always have this.
That's an ongoing joke, by the way. We invite everyone that's on the Savannah show to come and stay in our tent.
Okay, I was going to say this. Aberdeen's a bit of a not great place for camping.
We know that. None of the games athletes do. So whenever they're on like Sebi's and he says about the tent, they're all like, huh? But yeah. It's good to see people like Noah Olsen saying, yeah, I'll stay in a tent with you in the middle of Highland.
Like the Highlands wouldn't be so bad. Aberdeen.
Yeah.
From there originally, so no.
So moving on to your games experience then.
Yeah.
So talk us through that. So was this 2024?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
Okay, so talk us through from like the open and the qualification process for it.
So the open was the same kind of format that we're doing this year for the adaptive side. So last year I was in standing diagnosed, which was a category basically for people who are standing with a diagnosis. I'm in a different category this year. I'm a neuro minor this year, which is where I should have been last year had I actually knew a little bit more about the whole classification process. So the open, I don't know if you follow WheelWOD at all on social media. They've got all of the different classifications and everything that you need to know about the workouts on there. So the open, as obviously I did it as it was prescribed for the standing diagnosed category. And I know there's lots of other stuff like upper 2-point, lower, seated with hip, seated without hip. Everybody else has got their own variation of the workout, but it all gives the exact same stimulus. So the open, I went into it last year being like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to be thrown down against people that are of a similar ability to myself, that's got similar kind of conditions, because it's great to see yourself on a leaderboard against people who never have any of this sort of stuff going on. But to be on a leaderboard with people who get it, who actually understand what it's like for your body just to stop working, or for things not to work, or for like your legs to get stuck in on themselves. I thought that was something really cool and something really special. During the Open, I did not expect to qualify for semi-finals whatsoever. Obviously being very relatively new to CrossFit, it was just a bit of a grind. Everything was a grind. I think I got some of my first pull-ups during the Open, or first chest to bar pull-ups during the Open.
Oh, brilliant.
And during, I think it's in between 24.2 and 24.3, I'd lost the use of my legs again. So they'd shut down, I think it was on the Sunday night, they stopped working. So Monday, Tuesday was paralyzed. Wednesday, I'd got myself into the box and just held onto a bar and practice standing up and sitting down and standing up and sitting down, trying to rebuild that muscle and get them strong enough. Thursday, the workout was announced, and it was the one with the thrusters in it. And I was like, oh gosh, this is going to be awful, because my legs have got no, like, I didn't know how I don't know how to describe it. So my muscles cut out quite a lot. So if I've been paralyzed trying to go into a squat and my muscles aren't properly contracting or properly working, it's really scary. So I was like, right, I'll do it in the box, try and just do as best as I can, and just hope for the best. So I did it in the box, and I think there was a video of me at one point. I'm literally picking my left leg up to put it on to the box, because I did it scaled. So the first round of pull-ups were jumping pull-ups. So I had to pick my leg up, take it onto the box, hold on to the rig, pull myself up, and then do the jumping pull-ups. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Managed to do it. Got onto the second weight of thrusters, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to have to do it now. So I did it, and I managed. It was really disgusting reps and not very nice whatsoever. But then I finished the workout. I'm like, oh, that's okay. And it actually helped spark the nervous system back up again. On Saturday, I had a big, huge rest day, and I'm like, this is okay. And then on the Sunday, well, you're probably feeling it just now, John, when you're like, oh, I can maybe do better. I can maybe do a little bit of this. Should I redo it? And then I was like, pulled my pull-up bar, my rig out from my garage. So it was on the Sunday, put it in the middle of my driveway, and ended up just being like, right, I'm just going to RX it from my driveway. And even if I get one rep, I'm going to score higher up on the leaderboard. So just do it. So I ended up doing an RX. I did absolutely terribly, but I got a few reps in. So I was really, really happy. And at that point, I couldn't do chest to bar pull-ups. So I was like in a mixed grip, trying to pull myself up, literally kicking, God. Yep, that one. But I'm actually really proud of that, because it shows how much I fought. See, they're pretty reps. They're better. a lot better. But the start of that video.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the after. So they're a lot nicer now.
Look at that, There we go.
It's so bad.
That's your first strict pull-up?
Or
chest bar.
Yeah, because I couldn't kip either, because my rig's not high enough. So I'm quite tall. I'm like 5'7", so my feet held the ground, and then it would just break your momentum. And then the neighbours came past, and they had a minister and his wife. They'd obviously just been to church, and they come driving up in their car, and there's me pulling myself up on the rig. Are you okay, Rachel? I'm like, I'm fine. And they kept speaking. I'm just like, oh, guys.
Yeah.
This is really important. I didn't expect anything whatsoever. Didn't expect to get through to the semi-finals. And then I looked at the leaderboard and I was like, oh gosh, it's all been finalized. I'm off to the semi-finals. So that was interesting. And again, I went into it with the same expectation. I always say to myself, I can only do as best as my body allows for that. And that's literally all I can do. As long as I know that I've given it my all, I'm so happy with that. And even if it's not as good as what a lot of other people can do, that's totally fine, because I can only do what I can do. So when the semi-finals came along, I was like, right, just try it. It's what's the worst that can happen. So there was lots of things in it that I couldn't do at the time, like the handstand push-ups. Poor Donnie must have spent about 20 minutes like this, just watching me. Come on. And he helped. And we slowly but surely got closer and closer and closer, but I just wasn't strong enough whatsoever to get up there. So it was a total experience. And again, like I said, I didn't think I was going to qualify, but I knew I was going to give it my absolute best because I always do that. And then I think I was sat in like 11th place when all the scores had been submitted, and then some of the scores had been verified, and obviously all the videos had been watched again by WheelWOD, and I'd gone up into 10th place, and I was like, oh man. But I'd been out that weekend and obviously looked at the leaderboard. I hadn't got through because I was in 11th place, so it was a big festival on in Inverness. I was like, right, I'll go to that. Had the best weekend ever. Like, it was so much fun. And then got a phone call from a friend on the Monday being like, Rachel, congratulations. I was like, oh, what's happened? They're like, oh, you've made it. I was like, what done? Like, what happened at the weekend? What have I done now? And they're like, no, you made it to the games. I was like, oh, okay, this is wow. I did not expect this whatsoever. So then we just knuckled down and worked to get there, and it was amazing.
How long after semis was it when you went out to the games again? I can't remember when WheelWOD was.
Semi-finals were May, June sort of time, I think.
Yeah.
It must have been May time, and then the games were in September.
I was going to say why, because I thought it was September. I thought it was end of August, but it was September, wasn't it?
Yeah. So then we just dialed down. We obviously had a really, really strong plan to go to, and we just stuck to it. I was so happy with that. Like, honestly, for me, that was a massive moment because it was. Yeah. I didn't know it was a PR at the time because my coach, Connor, who came out with me, Donnie wasn't able to come to the games with me, so Connor came instead, and he was incredible. But he basically told me all the weights. He's like, this is what you're telling your judger. This is your first lift, second lift, third lift. So I had no idea because it was all in pounds, and I was like, I'm not going to bother working it out. I'll just do what we've got. Is Connor from
57 North?
Sorry, that's my dog. He was from 57 North. He's just moved off to Australia now, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I just moved out there.
How many people are in your category
at the moment?
What that you competed against at the games?
At the games, 10.
10.
Yeah, 10 of us. So I'd qualified just in 10th place and 7th. So I was so happy with that. I went in completely oblivious. I'd never been to a competition or anything whatsoever. I've never done a CrossFit competition, anything like that. To go straight in at the deep end.
Go straight into the games. So and then to finish higher than that at the games that's awesome.
Can I be perfectly honest?
These
workouts look so much cooler than the open games.
That was so much fun, and I was so mad.
Reminds me of strongman.
You're a Scot. This is like in your blood. This kind of thing.
So before, like Highland Games and stuff, they'd be like,
that's what it reminds me of. Yeah,
you're too clumsy. And somebody had they said something really mean to me just before that. So I went into this workout and I was like, so like just raging with it. So I just picked up the bag and launched it. And I didn't realize when I'd picked up the bag and thrown it, it wasn't until after the workout, one of my friends came up and she was like, Rachel, you do realize you nearly knocked out half the equipment staff? I was like, what? And she was like, no, your bag came up over the bar and straight through the back curtains. I was like, oh, sorry.
Wow.
Was that event staff that said something to you to piss you off?
No, Connor's. No. It was not event staff or anything like that. It was somebody else. I'm not going to say anything more than that.
No, you don't have to. I was going to cry.
No. Somebody said something that was quite mean about my ability to do stuff, and I was
okay.
So when I kind of like it when people are like that, though, because then you get this inner like, oh, I'm going to show you, I'm going to do well, and I did. So I'm pretty happy now.
Did I just see a bench press going on?
Yeah, there was.
Did you have a bench press?
Yeah, so that workout, it was max reps, in a minute, max reps bench. Then you had 2 pig flips, get over the pig and do a rope climb. And then you had to do the sandbags over the bar in an ascending ladder. So it was like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, which was so good. Like so good. It was just short, fast sprints. And yeah.
I'm not being funny. That is so much more fun and better. My God, what a workout.
There we go. That was a celebration there at the end there.
Yeah.
I was so happy.
That's a cool workout.
Anything with bench in it.
Bench,
I
big
really
stuff.
want. I
Packing
want
stuff-
bench in the
packing
open.
stuff over the rig. That's ace.
Oh,
Nah,
look at that!
so-
Look. Oh man, what a setup!
So see the bench at the start though, the bench was heavier than my 1 rep max at the time. I can
Right.
do it now, which is fine. So I literally went to the bar, had it. I was like, I'm going to have one attempt, and if I can't do it, I can't do it. That's fine because I'm saving my energy because I know I can be really good on the next bits. Obviously, jumping up a rope when you can't feel your feet, really not ideal whatsoever. So everything came from the arms, but they worked. But with a bench, I literally tried it once. And I'm like, no. So I stood up before everybody else, and I could see them. People were like, what is she doing? And I literally stood, got my breath, and I was like, waited for the next buzzer, and I was like, go. Just go and do what we've got to do, because I knew I could do really well in the other bits. That bit was just not for me, unfortunately. But we came away and we're like, right, we know that we can be fast. We're really good with weird stuff like odd objects and things that people haven't really done before. Really good at all of that sort of stuff. Just need to get stronger. So Donnie literally got back to the gym, and Donnie was like, right, Rachel, well done, blah, 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 blah. Here's our plan for the next year. So we're like, okay. And we've worked through that plan. We've stuck to that plan. We've done, so honestly, like, it's amazing to see the difference in strength, because from where I was even at the games to where I was towards the end of this year to kind of now, it's just really, really cool. So very excited to see what we can do.
See, thinking of that, have you, obviously you work with a nutritionist too, have you increased like your food intake over like since the games?
Yeah.
Like, to facilitate that?
Yeah, so we'd dialed in big time nutritionally. Myself and Donnie had kind of gone through absolutely everything between semi-finals and the games, and sorted out all the food, everything I eat. I'm so boring because I like to just make sure I'm eating really good, really clean food, make sure everything is as it is. So I will batch cook everything. It's easier with the kids. Now I've just started working with Steph, who's fantastic, and we're kind of sticking similar to what I was doing, but she's helping me a bit to be able to have more, to sustain more energy, because with the neurological condition, things like even taking one foot in front of the other, or being able to speak, or eye movements, anything like that uses up so much more energy. So I'm always going to be on the skinnier side of anybody, just because my body burns through so much fuel absolutely all the time. So she's been incredible at trying to balance everything out and make sure my body's adjusted as much as we possibly can, and we're eating as much good stuff to make sure that I can sustain, I don't know, not allow myself back up in a wheelchair, basically.
Yeah. When you've got a bit of motivation like that, that's quite severe, it probably helps. I would have thought, rather than having a day like I did yesterday, where I had 3 brownies and some pizza. That was literally all I ate yesterday
for the whole day.
Yeah, that's all I had. But I'm not.
But how much pizza did you have?
A lot. I definitely fueled up. But
tonight I literally had a steak with meat on the side of it and a bit more meat, and then everyone's like, "What did you have to snack on?" I was like, bits of steak, bits of beef." I literally just eat. Honestly, I'm so bad. I just eat all the time. I'm constantly eating, and it's just bits of meat and vegetables and nuts. But it's all
Heidi's here. She'll like that. That's what she lives on, is steak.
So good though. So good. And then my dog gets half of it as well.
Yeah.
Do your kids go to like any classes? Do they? Yeah. Do they go to like CrossFit Kids, or do they go to like Olympic lifting or anything? I know there's a club in Inverness that does Olympic lifting for the younger generation as well.
Yeah, so we've got CrossFit Kids on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So they normally go to that, and they switch between me and their dad. We have a week about. So on the week with me, they go to CrossFit Kids, and it's normally the first thing they say to me when they come back to my house, like, "Mom, what do you think our workout's going to be?" I'm like, "I don't know." I'm not sure. They're so funny though. They absolutely love it. And the other day I was putting them to bed. It was with the open announcement, and I let them stay up a little bit later than normal. And I'm like, "Right, guys, this is going to be your bedtime story." So we sat there in bed watching the open announcement on my phone.
Amazing.
So cool. But I found some of my weights in my son's room just yesterday, and I was like, "Hamish, why are my weights in your room?" Well, Mom, I was practicing. I was like, "What were you practicing?" Because it was just a tiny 5 kilo weight. So sometimes I put them on my legs just to try and lift. You can't see my legs tonight. Try and lift my foot up and down just to play about with it. So I was like, "Why is that in your room?" And he's like, "I was practicing." And I'm like, "Well, what were you practicing?" I was like, "I hope he wasn't doing the hand clean and jerks, because that's going to absolutely ruin his shoulders, and he's only 8. So he's like, no, Mum, I was doing my burpees over. I needed to see how fast I could do my burpees over the dumbbell. I'm like,
how good is
kind of
that?
proud of you, but don't steal my weights. Don't steal my
weights. Yeah.
What did he think of what did the kids think of the announcement? Like seeing the games athletes and like the likes of Rich, because that was a bit of a spectacle. Obviously, Jake spoke about that this morning on his other show, and like when Rich donned the Rocky shorts and it was proper like red, white, and blue. What did they think of like the whole spectacle of the announcement? Because that was the best announcement they've had for a number of years.
Hamish turned around and he's like, "Oh, Mum, he's cooler than Batman." I'm like, "He is
cooler than Batman."
I'm like,
wow.
What a compliment to get though. And then they just sat there. The two of them were silent, just watching, like totally in amaze. And I think it's so cool, especially for Isla, my daughter. She sees so many really cool, strong people now, and obviously Hamish does as well. But for girls to be interested in things like that, I just think that's something so special.
Yeah.
Really
you know, it's one of those, like I had this exact conversation a little while ago. I've got I was going to say a girl then, a 22-year-old lady. She's off island at the moment at university. So she's coming back. She's a weightlifter. I'm in charge of the weightlifting NGB on the island. And she came back from university for Christmas, and she was saying about how it's really rare for her to see women with a barbell at university. And I'm stood there, having done CrossFit since 2012. All I ever see every day of the week is women lifting barbells. All we ever watch is men and women lifting barbells. I forget that isn't the case outside of my bubble.
Yeah.
It's so easy to forget that. So to be reminded of that now and again is probably a good thing. It reiterates the message that we're trying to really hammer home, is that once you're into our club, so to speak, everyone's the same. We're all treated the same. You get the same opportunity. You know, everyone's output is different, but the opportunity is there for everyone. You are treated exactly the same. And that's what's quite unique about CrossFit, I think.
It's funny because you get a bit of proximity bias, don't you? Because you've like at the moment, I would say like, oh, I see loads of like women training, but it's because I've got lots of female clients. I coach female powerlifters. I coach people in the gym, and I'm surrounded by people that are in the gym. But then when you think about like the general population, there probably is still that stigma of, oh, I don't want to get too big, or there's that like they want that, you know, skinny aesthetic, whereas like they're afraid to lift the barbell. Where it's like, I think having stuff like, you know, CrossFit and like the open announcements and whatever it might be, people actually out on social media. I think social media, you know, it's good and bad, but I think it is having a positive like impact for the most part, like showing people like stronger women. But there obviously still is that kind of like, you know, the negative connotation where people just want to be, it's like the diet culture kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's obviously what you get away from.
Yeah, but it makes it even more important that people like yourself, Rachel, that have got these giant hurdles, but you're dealing with it, and you know you've done a very good job of showing yourself. I'm still waiting for the demo. Someone tells me I don't like them now.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for
that. You're just getting on with it and cracking on, but again, being vulnerable online and showing your bad days, because you know. You do get those posts from people saying, you know, I too have bad days, and it's them sat in a car crying because their Snickers wasn't in stock, or you know, the moon's not in the right place.
I would try if the Snickers wasn't in stock, though. That's
but like,
things, isn't it?
There's I appreciate it's all relative. The worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Mm-hmm. That's fine, but it's so important for perspectives for people like yourself. And I know you said about your aunt. I know you said that in your eyes, what she's been through makes you feel appreciative of, you know, your position and do what you do. So it's all relative, you know. But it's a reminder that we do need, and those strong individuals, especially the ladies online, showing what women are doing in our sport and in our methodology and at our gyms. We should be proud of that. And I think we do quite a good job of promoting that at the affiliate level, which has always been a highlight. Which is why it's always surprising when people come to me and say, that we need to do more, but it is a reminder.
Yeah.
Speaking of CrossFit, so we won't go into too much detail because I appreciate we've taken up quite a lot of your time. Without going into
after bedtime.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Start winding down for bed. I'm such an old lady, but because
that's all right. 5 minutes. So last question for me anyway. And I want to end it on a positive note, because in a conversation I had this morning with UN from Dublin, we talked about like HQ and CrossFit and the where we're at the moment with it and what's been going on. From your perspective so we've talked about your affiliate, and by the sounds of it, it's spotless. It's run well. That Donnie and the rest of the crew, the community are there. You feel welcomed. You're part of that community. That's done. So in terms of your facility, that's cool. In terms of the sport that you're involved with, so the adaptive division within CrossFit, do you feel there's any gaps there? Do you feel like there's any room for improvement, any development areas? There probably will be. There should be. I think it's good to reflect and take feedback on. But tell us your thoughts on it as a whole, from an HQ perspective with the adaptive. As a whole, do you feel like they've got it right? Do you think they're going in the right direction? And what's your thoughts on it?
So I think they're definitely going in the right direction. There's lots of things that have been going on behind the scenes that I know in regards to classification, that quite a lot of people have been speaking out about. There's quite a few people that I know within group chats and things that feel that they've been put into the wrong classification, especially within the neurological divisions. There's such a variety of different neurological conditions and how they affect different people. And I know that within the standing diagnosed category, quite a lot of the reasons why some of the girls have been kicking off, and some of the guys as well, is because in the rule book it states that the standing diagnosed, and it says eligible impairments is deaf. And this is nothing whatsoever against people with deaf, because it is incredibly difficult to have your balance and it completely affects you differently. But neurological people versus who have like their body shutting down and different things like that, versus somebody who can train at the same base level, that needs to be in two separate categories. Because if somebody can train at a certain base level, but then somebody's got all these intermittent things that are happening within their lives, that's two completely different things. So that's one thing that I would suggest that possibly could be changed.
Right.
I think in regards to actually getting the word out about adaptive CrossFit, they're doing such a good job. Good. And I know, especially after the games, the amount of people with functional neurological disorder that had reached out to myself, or people with similar conditions as well that have reached out to myself and have then gone off to their local CrossFit boxes. And this is people from all over the world that have got in contact, and they're like, oh, we're actually going to go and have a chat with people at our local CrossFit box. And I'm like, that's something that's so special and so incredible, because these people are a way to start this incredible journey within their life. And so I think they've kind of hit the nail on the head that way. It would be really, really good if there could be more that was kind of publicized about it, especially in regards to the structure, how people sign up as well. Quite a lot of people were very unclear on that.
Right.
But overall, I genuinely think Wheel Wad, they've got such a massive task on their hands. And there's so many different things that go on with so many different varieties of people. To be able to manage that for a start and figure out classifications for a start, that's such a difficult task for anybody to do. And I know they've just got a small team of people. Never mind being able to put on, well, they only get 2 hours basically to adapt all of the workouts for all these different categories. After the announcements, to be able to judge, review all of that stuff, then the semi-finals, and then put on the games. If you did watch the games, it was incredible.
It looked manic though, because there's so like I don't know how they actually managed to fit everything in. I watched a lot of it, and it was just constant.
Yeah, it ran like clockwork. You could track every single thing was on time. My parents were up in the audience when they were watching, and they were like, the workout would finish 2 minutes on after the equipment would be cleared off. The next minute, next set of equipment would be taken on. Next minute, judges would walk on. Next minute, athletes walk on, and then go. And it was just absolutely clockwork. And Kevin and Shannon and absolutely all of the team have done such an incredible job with that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And all the volunteers, all the judges, it was just absolutely amazing. And it's such a difficult task to do because it is so many athletes that are there with so many different conditions as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how they kept track of everything that they had to do. Yeah. When I was watching it, I was just like, because as you say, they're adapting workouts for all these different divisions and they've all got their own adaptations and they were just nailing it. Like,
well, when you think about like the Paralympics, the Invictus Games, like they've all got events. There's static events. They know that the adaptions, the categories are there. They mix and match the T's and the S's. And that's on a global scale. This gargantuan monster that is the Olympic Committee do that. Now, there's static events that are the same each time. With CrossFit, it's constantly varied. Every single workout is different. The rep range, the scheme, the combination, the time domain, the load, the distance. You throw that on top of what the other sports do. What an incredible job they've done to be able to do what they have done, and can do on the fly. It's testament to their ability to their knowledge and understanding of CrossFit,
of what they're doing.
And I would hazard a guess and say probably the best people to run an event for CrossFit would be wheelbod for the able-bodied. If they were given workouts that are basically just the load changes, it would be a really simple task for them to organise.
For them, that's it.
They're amazing, absolutely amazing. I just think everybody should feel super, super grateful. Hopefully, this is just the start of something massive. Because there's no reason why people with different disabilities should not be able to do things like this. And it's so good to see that there is. I think Kevin Oger said there was an extra 300 people had signed up for the Open this year in the adaptive division, and that's massive cool. Because I think it's like word of mouth. So many people will hear these different things or see all these different things on Instagram or hear about different people within their village, and then they'll be like, oh, I know such and such. This is what's going on with them. How about they get in contact with their box and then they'll get involved with it? And it's just this massive circle. So hopefully, obviously this year it's about 300 people. Next year, fingers crossed, there's even more people, and it'll just keep building and building. And at the end, give so many people such a better quality of life, which is really what CrossFit is about at the end of the day anyway.
That was going to be like my last,
this whole thing.
That was going to be like my last question was like, what would you tell someone that's like newly diagnosed? Doesn't have to be FND, but obviously that's your experience. But what would you say to someone that's FND or any other like neurological condition, or anything that would class them as an adaptive athlete who thinks that like sport or fitness or competing isn't an option to them anymore? Like, what would you tell that person?
Not to be so silly. You just have to stop being so silly. Like, it's not even sport, it's literally functional movement to help you with your everyday life. So simple things like when you get older, being able to carry your shopping in my case, being able to give my kids a hug when I'm in a wheelchair, that's massive. That is what it is, just being able to do. Genetic.
Something I say to my clients is I'm not trying to add years to their life, I'm trying to add life to their years. Exactly,
because you don't want to grow up and be this old person not being able to move. You want to be able to move regardless of if you've got one leg, two legs, if your arms are working, if they've shut down. You just want to be able to live your best quality of life. It's the same as workout. You want to live your best quality of life for that day. It's like you want to do your workout to the best of your ability for that day. Everything, you just want to have it as best as can.
We've got a quick one here from Seema. Do you mind if people ask you what your adaptive issue is, or like, I'm assuming this is just in day-to-day life if people...
No, not at all. No, because I know sometimes it's not clear with me because you can't physically see everything every single day. At the moment, you could probably tell with my foot. But again, unless you're properly drilling down, you won't be able to see it, or unless I'm in the wheelchair, then that's really obvious. But no, really wouldn't mind whatsoever, because I think it's quite good to be able to have a conversation with people, because then they're a bit more aware about what other people might be going through that you can't actually see. Over at the games, we were sat having lunch. It was myself, Henry Dunn. He's an amputee. He's got his arm amputated from about there. Liam Smith, he's also got Crohn's, and my friend Luke as well, he's got type 1 diabetes. And we were all sat down at the table, and Henry's coach, Shorts, was just like, do you know what? All you people here are like, so what's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? All those people in standing diagnosis and medical sort of stuff, because you can't physically see. And Henry's like, I don't have that problem, do I? And we were just kind of laughing about that. But no, definitely don't have an issue with people.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with people being curious, isn't it?
No, it's sometimes if people have got like negative sort of things to say, it's a bit annoying. I'd be like, well, you don't look like there's anything the matter. I'm like, I think you just kind of take it on the head. You're like, you've got no idea whatsoever. But see people that say things like that, oh, you don't, are you sure? Are you sure you're okay? And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to bring this into my next words. Keep annoying me a little bit more, please. Thank you.
I think it's all tone and context, isn't it? Like anything, we're communicative species. We like to find and problem solve. And if someone's near us that we feel might have a problem or we can help, we ask the question, and we want to know. We want to know these things. But again, it's tone and context. If you walk up to someone and say, "What's up with you?" That's that might be received a little bit differently to, do you mind if I ask, what your diagnosis is? Anyway, Rachel, I know we've just gone past 90 minutes. I know that we said that was our last question. I know you've got to go to bed.
I know. I'm so sad, but I like to sleep. Sleep is good.
Yes, one
of the best things for you. Last thing before you go, Jake normally asks people about their music choice. If the theme tune to all your workouts was one song, what would it be?
Oh, Cool Dancer by Valtis, or Basement Jaxx Do Your Thing.
Okay. There we go.
Or it depends on my mood as well, because sometimes it can be like really ragey heavy metal stuff.
Good.
If I'm in a really bad mood, I'm like, bang some of that on. But normally it's like Schuchter kind of, like Scottish dance techno sort of stuff, like Valtis, Elephant Sessions, Face the West, kind of bands like that. You probably
I used to coach you from Elephant Sessions.
Did you?
Yeah, he was one of my clients. Yeah.
Yeah, they're one of my favorite bands ever. I love them.
Yeah, they're really nice guys. Jake, what's yours? Then we'll go because I basically just want to tell my one.
Okay.
But what's yours first? Because no one will guess mine.
What, your song?
Yeah, no one will guess mine. But what's yours? If it was the theme to all your workouts, it's what you can only choose one.
Oildale, Leave Me Alone by Korn off the third album.
Right. That's it. That's a classic.
Just Jonathan Davis screaming, "Why don't you just leave me alone?" Like, perfect. It's just my workout song.
Do you know what song gets me? Like, I could be like 20 kilometers into a half marathon, and if this tune comes on, I'm like, I could run another 20 kilometers, and it's Bonnie Tyler, Holding Out for a Hero. And do you know what it makes me? What it reminds me of? Because we'll all get this references. Do you know Short Circuit 2, when he's like going after the bad guys and he's going along the like harbor front? That's what kicks in, and that's like I'd kick a door in.
You're Johnny too.
Yeah. Johnny 5, like
Johnny 5. That's it.
That's
Johnny 5.
Yeah.
Right. Well.
Anyway, thank you very much for coming on, Rachel. It's been great. Seema says, lovely to hear your story.
Yeah, and we'll keep in touch about the Open and how it's all going this year, and hopefully we can speak to you again around semi-finals time and see how you're getting on for that. That'd be lovely if you could.
Yeah.
Get you on during the games.
Maybe not during, because
maybe after then.
Very focused. Like I know my brain can be a bit like.
I've got loads more questions, so we need to get you on.
Oh, we can do that next time, can't we? You need to
anytime though, just give me a shout. So long as it's not uni, exam times is coming up at the moment now with uni. So yeah, we're a bit tight for time, but any other time.
Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Really appreciate the time.
Hang around because we'll end the stream and then you'll still be
here.
here.
How do I get out of this?
We'll tell you 2 seconds. Right. Peace.
Love it.
There we go. Thank you very much.